I'm Eddie Rivkin, and this is the nightly report for the Stanley Cup Finals, game number 3, played last night at the Fortress in Las Vegas. The Vegas Golden Knights prevailed 5-4 in double overtime, but that ain't the story, not in any way, shape, or form. Let's discuss. The first story of the night started before the puck ever dropped. Brayden McNabb, he of taking an 87-mile-an-hour slap shot from Nikolai Ehlers off the face, returned to the lineup. When we spoke to Torts earlier in the morning, and we asked him if he had an update on McNabb, in his normal Torts fashion, no update. So that means you'll wait and see. Now, we knew if he was going to play, he would definitely have a birdcage on. But when he came out for warm-ups, it's just shocking. You know, Serena and I sit next to each other in the press box, and she talks about Prairie Strong. He's a Saskatchewan boy, goes back to his family's house, his family's farm in the summer. He's just a big, strong, grown-ass man, and what an incredible boost to the lineup to have him back in the lineup. At the end of game 2, you saw them sort of get tired out playing 5D, and they struggled a little bit. The possibility of losing Brayden McNabb for any period of time really sort of changes the outlook on the series. To have him back, a massive boost to the lineup. Now to the game itself. Surprisingly enough, the first period, it didn't even really feel like a Stanley Cup final game. I'm not sure if the crowd in the Fortress was a little bit anxious because of the way the Golden Knights blew a lead in game 2 and ended up losing. But that vibe, and God, I know I hate for an old man to say that word, vibe. The feeling in the building was sort of like a Tuesday night against Ottawa. There was no real buzz. There was nothing really going on. It wasn't really loud, aside from when they announced Brayden McNabb in the opening lineup. The first period was dominated, if you can say a period where there's 7-2 by Carolina. They dominated the territorial play. I think Vegas probably went 13, 14, 15 minutes without a shot to end the period. But it was sort of tentative on both sides, that almost as if they said, okay, these first 2 games were a little bit wacky. We're going to sort of settle this down, get into a groove, and we're going to find our way. So we go into the first intermission 0-0, 7-2 for Carolina. Kind of a dull, boring Fortress for Saturday night for the Stanley Cup Finals. On to the second period. Mark Stone, takeaway, shoots, scores, 5-hole. Uh-oh. Carolina takes a look at it. They decide that they want to appeal. They think that the play is offside. Lo and behold, Brett Howden was just a tiny bit offside. The call on the ice is reversed. Goal off the board. We're back to 0-0. Play continues. Vegas is starting to build their game now. They're making their way. They're pushing Carolina back. They got a little bit of offensive pressure. They score again. Still 0-0. We thought it was 1-0. Now they've scored a second goal. Uh-oh. We've got a coach's challenge for goalie interference. Goals taken off the board. So Vegas has scored twice. They've had 2 goals taken off the board. The crowd now is into it. The refs you suck chant are just bouncing off the walls and the ceiling. It took 2 goal calls reversed to get the Golden Knights crowd engaged in the game. But for whatever it was, it happened. The crowd was into it. The game had basically started. Carolina is chasing the Golden Knights around. The Golden Knights draw a penalty. 10 seconds into the penalty, Eichel, Stone, fuck, that's not the way it happened. It was Hertl in his office, 10 seconds into the power play. Hertl finishes 1-0. There's no way they're taking this goal off the board. It was clean as could be. The crowd is fully engaged and game on. Next up, there's no other way to describe it. The game became the Mitch Marner show. 3-goal hat trick, a natural hat trick. the fastest natural hat trick in the Stanley Cup final history, 6 minutes and 10 seconds, passing, I think it was Rocket Richard. It was one of the Richards a long, long time ago. This is Mitch's coming out. This is Mitch's, if you want to be sort of petty about stuff, this was Mitch's gigantic double bird to all the Maple Leaf fans who said he wasn't a big game performer. He scored in every way manageable, including a big slapper from 25 feet for the third goal that beat Frederik Andersen clean off the bar and in. 4-0 in the second period, and the Golden Knights think it's party time. They're just sort of, everybody's kind of relaxing. Everybody's kicked back in their chair a little bit. They're watching the game. They're not paying a ton of attention, but it wasn't the case. Mitch Marner had a glorious opportunity to extend the lead to 5-0. He goes in on a breakaway. He takes a terrible slash from Sebastian Aho. Referee Wes McCauley calls it a penalty shot. And if you've been following the Golden Knights this season, they don't do very well in the shootout. They don't do very well in the penalty shots. And Mitch Marner was stopped by Brandon Bussi. Wait. Brandon Bussi? That's right. Frederik Andersen was so bad in the second period that Coach Rob Brindamore made a mercy pull and changed to goalie Brandon Bussi, who was, by the way, the Carolina, I was going to say Panthers. It's a long day, folks. The Carolina Hurricanes' best goalie during the regular season. After the game, Mitch shared this revelation. He didn't know that they changed goalies. The big difference between Freddie Andersen and Bussi, they catch with opposite hands. They call Bussi a backwards catcher. He catches right hand. So if he was a baseball player, he would be a left-handed thrower, where Freddie Andersen is more traditional. But Mitch didn't know it. Okay, it's still 4-0. But then the Golden Knights started to take their foot off the pedal just a little bit. And Carolina started to tilt the play. They score a goal on a bit of a scramble in front of the Golden Knights net, and it's 4-1. Who cares? It's 4-1. Not a big deal. The problem is, in the next 39 seconds, Carolina scores twice again, and now it's 4-3. And you could hear ass cheeks whistling and assholes puckering, because here come the Carolina Hurricanes. The third period is on. We've got ourselves a game, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It goes back and forth. Vegas, to their credit, gets back to their game pretty quickly after giving up the 3 goals in 39 seconds, but they can't punch through and get the closeout goal for 5-3. And then the most inexplicable penalty is committed by Shea Theodore. I have never seen. I take that back, and I'll tell you after I tell you what he did. Shea Theodore cleared the puck over the glass from his own side of center ice and took a delay of game penalties with 2.5, 3 minutes to go in the game. Inexplicable. I'll buy a pizza for anybody who can tell me the last Golden Knight who did it. And I know that you can't, but I know who it was. And if you're a big fan of social media, especially the NHL's coverage of the social media where they have former players interviewing current players, your answer is hidden there. The answer is Ryan Reeves. And it was at a very inopportune time. I don't remember the result of it, but I remember being in the press box shaking my head going, what in the fucking fuck was that? So Shea Theodore commits just a dumb penalty. There's no other way to describe it. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It was a dumb penalty. And here comes Carolina on the power play. 2-3 minutes to go in the game. Power play starts off as expected. They don't punch through. They pull their goalie. There's a huge scramble in front of the net. And the puck ends up in the net. Now, if you're thinking, wait a second, this same sort of thing happened in game number 2 and the goal was taken away by from the Golden Knights, you would be right. The only difference was the goal was upheld, and according to Coach John Tortorella in the post-game press conference, all of those calls were correct. Both goal calls coming off the board for Golden Knights, correct calls. The goal counting for Carolina, also a correct call. John Tortorella did remind us for the 100th time that he vehemently disagreed with the call in Game 2, and then he basically called us guys in the media idiots for all the shit that we talk and all the crazy theories that we put forward with regards to that goal. Well, we're off to overtime, folks. What was supposed to be a walk in the park, 4-0 after 2, turns into 4-4, and now the series is pretty well hanging in the balance because the team that goes up 2-1 in the series wins that series over 70% of the time. The first overtime wasn't hugely eventful, but Carolina did carry the play for the better part of it. Both teams had a fair amount of decent scoring chances, but by now you could cut the tension in the fortress with a knife. Back and forth they went. The shots were fairly even. The new goalie, Brandon Bussia, the young kid, first Stanley Cup playoff appearance, stood on his head and kept that game from ending multiple times in the first overtime. On the Vegas Golden Knights end, Carter Hart came up huge in the overtime with 2 or 3 absolute 10-bell saves. We're off to the second intermission. Nobody knows what's going on in this series, folks. Everybody, all the smart pundits, all the media people, all the people who get paid to tell you how smart they are and what these series are going to be like, they all said, it's going to be low scoring, it's going to be boring, it's going to be defensive and everything else like that. Well, guess what? They're all wrong. The people around the country, the hockey people, they said, this is the who gives a shit series. You've got a mid-market team like Carolina. You've got Vegas, the evil empire, the most hated team in all of the land. This is the nobody gives a shit series. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been arguably the best 3 games starting out a Stanley Cup final in recent memory. They've been absolute barn burners. So we move forward to the second overtime. Back and forth we go. Shea Theodore rips a slap shot wide of the net, hits the yellow kick plate, bounces off Jordan Martinook's skate, bounces off the back of Brandon Bussia's skate, into the net. Euphoria rings. The Golden Knights have avoided the greatest choke in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs, giving up a 4-0 lead, and they win 5-4. They're up 2-1 in the series. Game 4 is Tuesday night at the Fortress. Starts at 5 o'clock here in Vegas, 8 o'clock for you poor suckers on the East Coast who might have to stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning to watch a game. But there's a ton of storylines here. Again, the biggest storyline, Braden McNabb. Everything was right in the world when Braden McNabb slots back into the lineup. What wasn't right in the world is Hannifin's continued struggles, and he was injured earlier in the game. He took a really vicious hit. He looked a little bit out of sorts. He went down to the tunnel. He came back and played, but he has struggled pretty significantly in the Stanley Cup Finals to the point where he was moved down to the third pair to play with Dylan Coghlan. Come on, Eddie. English is your first language, dude. You got to be better. Dylan Coghlan. And friend of the podcast, Jeremy Lauzon, moves up to play with Rasmus Andersson. There were points all over the place. Tomas Hertl, 1-1. Braden McNabb, the aforementioned multiple times, 2 assists. But Braden McNabb played 35, almost 36 minutes, 2 days after he got his face mushed in by an 87-mile-an-hour slap shot from Nikolai Ehlers. I don't know if you guys drive fast. I kind of got a car that likes to go pretty fast, but think about when you're driving on the freeway at 87 miles an hour and something were to hit you in the face. I don't think that you would be back doing your job in a couple of days. We got to talk to Braden McNabb after the game. We got a good look at what happened, and I got to tell you, if you are one of soft constitution, a squeamish kind of stomach, you don't want to look at that picture. one of the reporters asked him how many stitches he took. He said, 20 or 30, but I don't remember. It looked like he had to have his nose stitched back onto his face. It was pretty frightening. But he's a grown-ass man, ladies and gentlemen. He came back and he played well. He didn't back off any way, shape, or form. He was physical. He was aggressive on the offensive end. A pinch led directly to a Mitch Marner goal. He was fantastic. He's probably can't be the first star of the game because Mitch Marner had a hat trick and an assist for 4 points. But the emotional first star of the game is absolutely Braden McNabb. I have to take a look at my notes here for a second. We said hi to the power play. They scored a goal. That was really important. Somebody asked me this morning on a radio hit what I think is going to happen in this series, and unfortunately I couldn't speak freely because it was actually like over-the-air radio, but my answer is I have no fucking idea. I have no idea where we're going with this, but as a hockey fan before a VGK fan, I can tell you I am all in for the action in this series. There's ebbs and flows. These are two grown men. I don't know if you're old enough to remember, there was a game years and years ago called Rock'em Sock'em Robots, where two robots stood in a real small ring and punched the living daylights out of each other. That's what this series is. Back and forth they go. Up and down the ice they go. Momentum swings have been huge. And I don't know, there's a guy on press row, this old fucking guy. He said momentum's not a thing. Well, we know he's an idiot because if you watched all three of these games, momentum is everything. The Golden Knights have had it. The Golden Knights have lost it. Carolina has taken it. Carolina has given it back. Uncle Mo is a real thing. The teams had today off. They'll get back to practicing tomorrow. I'm sure when we talk to Coach Torts, he won't tell us anything about the changes he wants to make. He'll give us the standard issue. We've got some things to work on, and I'm not going to share them with you. We won't get an update on Noah Hannafin as well. Don't worry about it. That's not a big surprise either. But just, I encourage you, I implore you, if you are a fan of this podcast, if you are a fan of hockey in general, NHL hockey in general, this is must-see TV. All the people are saying, oh, we got to have 4 more of these. I don't want 4 more of these. 2 or 3. Let's just get the cup in 6. Let's not go back to Raleigh for Game 7. But I'd like all of the games to continue at this fever pitch with hitting. There was over 100 hits. There's the other stat I was looking for. The Vegas Golden Knights out-hit the Carolina Hurricanes 65-40. 105 hits in an NHL game. Yes, it went 85 minutes. But it was 85 hard-hitting minutes with just a few scrums. Game 2 again, Tuesday night, 5 o'clock Vegas time, 8 o'clock in the East. Tune in for more updates of the Hockey Nights in Vegas podcast. Serena and I will be back with you tomorrow. We're actually doing a TV spot later tonight, so you'll get a chance to see both of us on TV and not swear again. That's a big news story. And then we'll be back with you on Wednesday after Game 4. Thanks as always, all 658 subscribers. We really do appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you're seeing this for the first time. And we will be back again with you soon. Have a great day, everybody.